So you could probably think if you were to build a tech startup from the beginning, you must have AI as a core component.
25% of revenues of Fortune 500 companies within 3 years are going to come from a AI and data related product or service.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so
How is that even possible?
people saw that they're going to use API from OpenAI or Azure, what have you, and just plug it into the database and magic will happen.
Do you ever wish you had a partner?
Customer support center self-service or financial advisor for every customer. So there are lots of scenarios where you can actually make money.
Are they ever worried about the safety in AI?
I think there is not enough information about how the end product will look like.
J.D. Vance, the American Vice President, gave a talk last week in Paris, France about AI.
We should be able to create those mechanisms that we can safely share our data.
Welcome to another episode of Israel Tech. I'm here with Inna Tokarev Sela, the founder and CEO of Illumex. Thank you for hosting us in your offices.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, lovely for us, really. So let's jump right into what everyone's talking about, probably the most overused, maybe misused, maybe even underused word, AI. You guys help enterprises with AI, right?
AI is artificial intelligence, is the old term. So you should
Right.
use agentic AI.
Okay.
This is a new school.
How long until that term is going to be old?
Well, I have no idea, but I realized last July that Silicon Valley was all agentic AI, while a week later in Boston, no one heard about it. So it was fashion comes and goes. But enterprises do start to adopt artificial intelligence in different flavors, and they do have lots of challenges on adopting that. What do you imagine?
Oh yeah, I'm sure, right? I mean, they probably have challenges doing anything. I know just from the marketing agency that I run, just to become a vendor, just to onboard me is such a pain in the ass. I can't imagine them introducing radical technology that's changing ever so rapidly. I would assume that they all know they need to implement.
Yeah.
They don't know necessarily how or what. What is an enterprise's first step?
So first step is always a business case. And luckily for us and for the whole industry is that agentic AI is something that a CEO is coming to tech department, like the chief data officer, and say, I just want ChatGPT for my company. Make it happen.
Right.
So this is the ultimate business
But why?
case.
Is it an ego thing, or do they what's their purpose? They just want for them to be able to use all their internal data and resources for anything they need internal to be able to find it immediately? Is that their main use of it?
It's more about factual decision making, because we all make thousands of decisions every day,
Right.
and the industry analysts say that only 20 to 25% of the decision making in an enterprise is based on data analytics. What do you imagine? So it's
I don't know. I mean, I don't make a lot of decisions based on data. I use intuition, but I'm not an enterprise.
It's a benchmark that 3 to 5% in every big organization actually touch data. And for us, where you want to have your kid is preparing for the exams, they're not Googling anymore.
Right.
They do not use Britannica anymore. They just use Perplexity or
Britannica.
ChatGPT.
Don't age yourself.
My school days.
We used to have them. I remember someone came to our house selling encyclopedias, the World Book. I don't know if you had this.
Yeah.
And we had the 1992 version, the whole thing. And doing door-to-door selling it. And we bought it. My mom bought it.
I like
and
that
then
for
she
pictures.
made us use it for homework and things all the time.
Well, we had the lovely school's library. Anyhow, it's not about ego. It's basically being able to have independent experience about facts and data in organization on one side. On the other side, it's really about business imperative, because you would like to have a more digital transformation to happen. So, for example, a customer support center self-service or financial advisor for every customer. So there are lots of scenarios where you can actually make money with self-service and agentic experience inside the organization and outside of organization. So I think it's first technology since the internet, more or less, that the business imperative, the search is coming from the business side. It's not like our tech
not trying to sell it.
Yeah,
They're
it's not
demanding
that
it.
tech is like pushing this cloud and neural nets, like being able to really understand what the business model around that, and this is different.
So what does that do for you guys? That probably makes business pretty easy when they're coming to you and you're not going to them, right?
Well, for starters, we do have lots of demand for for enterprise adoption, facilitating enterprise adoption of generative AI, because we take them full cycle from AI-ready data preparation through augmented governance and compliance, we'll touch it in a second, and up to actual experience of using your Teams or Slack and asking data-related questions with all transparency and explainability. This is something that underneath has risk management, has cost management, compliance, governance, legislation, data quality. All of those things do not exist in one single solution in the market.
Why doesn't it?
Just because right now we have this plethora of different tools, solutions, foundational models, niche solutions for specific use cases like marketing, so on and so forth. So it's like, you might remember in the early days of marketing automation, we had those Luma maps with thousands of solutions, right? And now we have, if you buy Adobe, you probably have majority of
right.
your needs met.
Right.
And this is the same with generative AI. So people saw that they're going to use API from OpenAI or Azure, what have you, and just plug it into the database and magic will happen. What happened is randomness, right? So one time you get one answer, like how many SKUs we sold in Germany, you have 19, like a black box, like this oracle came to you with an answer, so what's supposed to do with that? And now there is understanding that you have to take care about your data semantics and labeling, you have to take care about a single source of truth, because every department defines a churn in different way, right? So you do not want to allow randomness. And you also want your employees to be able to actually have intelligent conversation, because in majority of the cases, the business people are not aware of what's the art of possible, what they should be asking, what they could be asking, what's in the data in the first place, that they have no idea.
So what made you decide to actually found the company? You're unique, I think. The overwhelming majority of people I've interviewed, I'm trying to think of an exception, they are all co-founders, at least from the startups. And you're a solo founder. So yeah. Was that intentional? Were you looking for co-founders? What made you decide to go ahead and start this on your own?
So for starters, good question. I spent majority of my career in enterprise, and then we pick up on this ladder and you manage big departments. I manage huge groups at SAP, the SAP Cloud Platform, and then Video Analytics Unit, and then at Sisense. So it was natural for me that I have an idea, we need to build a team and make it happen.
Right.
So I played with the idea to have founder dating, and then it felt like an unnatural experience.
Why?
Unnatural because I already knew who is going to be the founding team. So it's like it takes a village. I already knew like who is going to play which role. And
what do you mean? Like you had people in mind before you even approached them?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you worked with them at SAP or somewhere you knew them from somewhere else?
Yeah, and just building community.
Did they know they were going to be part of your team or not yet?
Not necessarily. Some of them suspected. So.
Did they know you were building something or your intent to when you already had a team in your mind?
Well, I'm a very intense person. So when I'm at SAP, I'm at SAP. When Sisense, I'm at Sisense. When I'm building my own company, I'm building my own company. On 3rd of January, when I quit my day job, like my job, and started my company, is where journey started. And it always starts with market sensitivity. Pitching what you're building to potential customers. Getting feedback, gathering data points. I'm a rational person. And then you have to have a passionate story about that for investors, because try to pitch investors in 2021 what's context and reasoning is.
Right.
When like ChatGPT was not existing yet. So I was like, I tried to pitch few investors, this type of solution, and I'm like, okay, it's not getting off. So I actually contacted Donna Griffith from Silicon Valley. I used to work with her at my previous jobs, and Donna is amazing. And she's like, no, you need a story. Let's create a story around that. Like few meetings later, I would say like maybe 3-4 hours, we had a decent story. And then I went to pitch. First via Zoom, it was COVID time, and then some face-to-face meetings in Tel Aviv, and I raced over deck. Yes, it was still 2021, it was still possible.
It was still possible?
Yeah.
Do you ever wish you had a partner?
Well, if it was a natural involvement of this process, yeah. So for the context, I've been married for 15 years, and prior to that, we were dating for 10 years. So
wow.
We're high school sweethearts.
Oh, adorable! Wow.
So I am all about long-term relationships, and I have this relationship with my employees as well. So I'm so happy. I'm so grateful.
How old are they? How old are your boys?
My boy is 9.
He's 9, okay.
Yeah.
I've been married almost 15 years. November will be 15 years. And I have 2 girls. One turns 9 in April and another one's 13. Let me tell you about our partners, wadidigital.com, the technology marketing agency. If you're a startup or a tech company that needs marketing help, bring in leads that actually convert into opportunities, then this is your real partner. They even help us and many other technology companies with advertising, SEO, social media, influencer marketing, and video editing, just like they do for us here at Israel Tech. So what are you waiting for? Take your marketing to the next level and reach out to Wadi Digital. And now, back to the show. So you're at it on your own, and then you brought your team along. And then how were you able to, where did you see the product market fit? Obviously, it was clear enterprise need AI. But if with so much talk about it, how do you cut through the noise?
We were not selling generative AI right away, right? So our story was about making this data interaction flawless.
Right.
For starters, for data management and analytics teams, because generative AI was not in existence yet,
Right.
In the wide adoption, let's say. And then when ChatGPT exploded, we switched all our messaging right away to how we actually can facilitate this frictionless experience where you bring data management practice, analytics practice, and agentic practice to the same playground.
Fascinating. And so when you speak to enterprises, when you have the opportunity for them to be introduced to you, do they get do you have a challenge in communicating with them what you do? Because they're aware that this technology is so advanced, it's changing so rapidly, and they're coming to you for a solution. How do you bridge the knowledge, the communication gap, let alone the knowledge gap, the information gap, and then the technical gap? How do you bridge the communication gap when you talk about something that changes so much? Because we can talk about Gen AI today, and when people see this, when people watch this, right, how one would define Gen AI may have changed a little bit. You know what I mean? So I was wondering your thoughts were there.
So you might saw the tagline on our website, talk to your data the way your employees do. So this is exactly that. We open up with, are you up to this frictionless experience with your data for business users? And they're like, yeah, we always have underserved users like our executives, and we'll totally want to facilitate the interactions. The good news, I would say, it's already 3/4 that in every discovery call, our prospects quote our solution brief to us. We know that we need to handle our data in good shape and hygiene. We know that we need to incorporate governance and controls about that because otherwise we might have to jail or just leaking all our information to internet. And the third one is user adoption. So users in some cases are really intimidated by using AI and moreover making decisions based on AI answers. And this is where we are very empathetic about end user and providing this experience which makes them trust the technology and being able to check it every time. So I'm saying this is a platform which is built by control freaks for control freaks.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's true.
What's it like to work with control freaks?
I think it's obsession about perfection. And on startups, it's everything about not being perfect and being fast to the market.
Right, well, that's from the business side. But the engineers...
Engineers are never happy. So
Correct.
It's always we always have technical debt and everything like that. I'm saying that we are enterprise grade and we always have been. So we actually build out testing and quality automation before we submitted the first line of code. So it's like building to enterprise from starters. I'm coming from enterprise background, and I always knew that Illumex is going to be big company serving enterprises, so it was natural to visualize this vision board in front of your eyes.
Right, wow. Let's talk about the adoption curve in AI. How do you adopt? It's so fastly changing, Once I think I finally, let's say as a parent, start to understand I finally understand this child's stage of life and how to be a parent, they moved on to another stage, and I'm always playing catch up, and then the next kid's so different from the first one, you take your whole playbook and throw it out. How do you tell us about the adoption curve when it comes to AI and how they continue to stay up to date with all the changes?
So saying raising kids doesn't scale, really?
I guess it could. I don't know.
If you outsource.
Right, if you outsource, like Elon Musk is.
So let's speak about AI outsourcing. I think last year was very much about enterprises marrying the AI provider. So you might hear about RAG and GraphRag, all those techniques. You basically spoon feed a generative AI model from your own context with
Right.
your own organizational data, so it will be able to understand the organizational language and not just news or Wikipedia or what have you. So this process is highly tailored and very labor intensive.
Why?
So
You would think all that so much language data. Why would it be so labor intensive?
So think about, you have off-the-shelf software, and it basically knows that apple is a fruit, right? It doesn't know that apple is part of your inventory. So what you actually need, exactly as with kids, you need to create tons of thousands of examples from your own data to represent all possible scenarios and
Right.
permutations of your logic. And that's totally not feasible because this approach also a black box. So you will never know, like, is a model trained 80% coverage from a data? It's like 100%. Maybe
Right.
it changes over time. The data is changing over time as well.
Right.
Because companies are already exploding from their own data. And now they're also using synthetic data, APIs, weather, what have you. So being able, to your point, keep not only with AI, but also with data explosion at the same time, using the last year techniques of basically tightly coupling model with the data will not scale in the future. So that's why we see right now, you might heard Jensen Huang in the stage of CS, he was speaking about agentic AI orchestration, which means companies should create their context and reasoning without organization, which is their own property, right? They keep it, they have it, and hopefully they also automate it. And then they just pick up the model of choice for specific tasks. So this model could be good for conversation, the one this could be good for MRI interpretation and all of that. So basically you're keeping your own logic and know-how, and you pick up tools that might be DeepSeek tomorrow because it's so cheap. Right. So it's about ROI, it's about TCO, it's about being able to build workflows.
Amazing. Are they ever worried about the safety in AI? I know there's so much conversation around this. I think it's been a little bit quieter lately, at least people freaking out. I noticed there's been less jabber. I think people, first off, it's not possible to have a business model around AI if you focus on safety. Would you agree with that? Unless you're like a nonprofit or something, you know what I mean? But like, if you want to compete globally.
I would disagree. I think legislation actually brings more safety than limits you. And think about that. So right now, we're getting RFIs from insurance and banking companies in the US. Every company has their own standards and requirements about AI compliance and governance.
Right.
It's like tedious to actually, keep up with all those changes. The majority of them are even, they're not corresponding to associated risks. So I am actually all for a standardization of legislation in the space. Like in Europe, they already have standards, and it's easier to just cater to them, be compliant with all of that, and you know that if you checked all the marks, you're safe.
Right.
So I think standardization is the key for the safety net. But I do think that safety net has to be there. And this is a big problem because right now, to build your generative AI stack, you have to have a model.
Right.
You have to have a data quality solution, you have to have governance solution, and then you have to have this interface, and then you need to stitch everything together. Yeah, it's unless you have illumex.
That's why I stick to marketing and media. So
now I sold you illumex.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I have enough stitching together in the work I already do. How can you compete then if you would have countries like communist China that doesn't care about the safety and they just want to make sure to dominate for world domination? How can we compete against them?
I don't think the world domination is going to be about foundational model or even their cost. I think it's about being able to customize for specific domain knowledge, because like eventually it will be super cheap to ask answers, ask questions about, stock prices or summarize someone's biography. Like there is no edge in that, but there is edge to connect to your Salesforce, your gain site, your CRM, like your operational system, and recommend you the best way to manage your inventory.
Yeah, it's so easy because what you could do is, like, if you, as a marketer, if you're doing like ICP research, you want to, you can ask your CRM anything you want. Like, what is the most common job title, job function to people that filled out a form on our website asking for a demo, right? And they go, okay,
So I think this is a future age to basically.
And it will just give you the answer. What percentage moved to the demo stage from each job title? Okay, let's target them, right? Which case studies had the longest dwell times? What do you send to your prospects, just from a marketing and sales perspective?
Yeah, so it's basically ingesting domain knowledge and domain expertise in workflows into agentic and being able, to first get intelligent answers and at some point to have some, preverbal robotic automation we were aspiring to but never got to it. And I think it's happening finally.
So if you think you can do it with safety, so Ilias AI startup SSI, how do you think they have a business model to compete as a for-profit?
I think there is not enough information about how the end product will look like. So the idea is great. It sounds great. We yet need to see how it plays.
Oh, come on, give us an opinion.
Well, we need to see it to believe it. It's
No, just in general, because
Yeah.
he's imposing self-limitations.
OpenAI is sold as AGI. At least it was positioned like that in the
It was
early
also
beginning.
as a non-profit, right? Well, for now.
Yeah, I think there is a challenge when companies start as non-profits and then turn around.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're open source and now they're closed source. So in a sense, it was all about, they knew if they wanted to stay relevant, they might have to go as privatized and have all the advantages that they want.
I think it's always a tension. Would you like to have this common benefit and basically, the ultimate, world technology advancement, or you would like to have commercial advancement where companies actually use it. So it really depends. And I think there is limitation for how long you can actually stay open source without some commercial distribution. Due to the fact that you mentioned there are biases, there are risks, there is a integration to different data sources. Someone needs to handle that.
Right. Would you say you're an optimist when it comes to AI?
Very much so.
You have to be, right? I mean, you built a business on it. Maybe not for everyone else, but it's going to work out for you.
Now I'm like, if you open my browser, I have like 50 tabs open. I believe
that gives me like the worst anxiety.
Exactly. So our mission is to enable application-free future. So imagine that you will not need to learn different experiences, different tools, like what's the order of clicks I need to make to achieve this result. So in the future, we'll not have all of that. So we'll have this tango between humans and data and applications, and everything is going to be seamless and not prescripted.
So those that are scared and all that, they're like Chicken Little, like running, like worried that the sky's going to fall on them. Would you say they're overreacting, a little too worried?
I do think that we still have some control in place. Have you heard about Yuval Noah Harari's new book? Nexus.
Not a new book, no. Oh yeah, I heard of it, but yes.
He thinks about what the lowest common denominator AI can actually change. And the change is going to be on the public opinion. So we already have 90% of discussions happening on the internet generated by bots, generative AI powered bots. So I think it's more about worry to have a public opinion shift.
Do you think he has good opinions on AI?
I think that AI will have an opinion at one point.
No, do you think Yuval has good opinions?
Well,
I just think I think it's way over his heels. I think it was great when he talked about Sapiens and all that, but when I hear him talking about like policy on tech and this and that, and I'm like, I think he's just like way off, talking out of his ass, and just, you know what I mean, talking to his friends of elitists or whatever.
Well, not policies on tech, but I think he has a point in the sense that we shouldn't worry about AI automating entry jobs. We should worry about public opinion and how it could be manipulated by using the scale of AI.
I feel like there's projection there.
Yeah.
On his side.
Well,
worry about the things I'm quietly doing without anyone noticing.
That. Yeah.
That's fine. I'll give my controversial opinions, even if they're Israeli, and even if they do great things. So AI is obviously playing a big part in geopolitics. We talked about this like safety, because we in the West may care. Nations that aren't free may not care. J.D. Vance, the American vice president, gave a talk last week in Paris, France, about AI, saying basically America's intention is to be the world leader, and we're happy to partner with the rest of the West and bring you along with us as partners, but us leaders. What do you think about that? I'm sure you saw the speech. What were your thoughts about it? Where do you think we are going as the West in particular when it comes to AI? And how do you think Israel, as a much smaller nation, but very strong when it comes to tech, what role are we going to be playing?
Yes, good question. Geopolitics of AI is a big topic, and I do believe in academic consortiums, so basically being able to contribute to each other, and I think it's a healthy practice. Again, I do not think the domination is going to be in foundational models. It's going to be in the way that you scale productization of AI, and also in data. So data defensivity is for sure a thing. And as you mentioned, in totalitarian regimes, there is just more data because there is more surveillance.
Right.
So data is abundant, and we should be able to create those mechanisms that we can safely share our data for research, for innovation, for advancement. So in Europe, for example, they do have industry clouds for insurance and healthcare. So of course they anonymize the data, but it's still being able to share between different research institutions to be able to promote drug development. So something that we need to really invest and being able to share data assets for AI and share AI research for common good. And I strongly believe in that. Putting that aside, there is also a hardware capacity. Right, so we do see that different nations do invest in that country capacity for AI loads. So for example, in Switzerland, they're building a national grid for GPUs, same in the Middle East, like in the Emirates.
Yeah.
So we will see more and more government-driven initiatives for like hardware infrastructure, especially for AI loads. And I think especially US is going to be the leader in these investments. Now that infrastructure investments are prioritized, naturally, it's going to happen. So I'm super excited about that.
Why I say naturally? Because it hasn't been until now.
Yeah.
Like you would have think the last few years, the last administration, they didn't prioritize it.
Well, the President Trump's new administration.
Very pro-tech.
Yeah, so there's huge investments in AI, and basically, we see Elon Musk is building data copilot for everything government. I think it's like the first sign that we will have more and more automation in different functions for transparency, for efficiency, and AI, of course, has to play a big role. And coming back to our small country playing a role in that, I think we kind of missed the train for the first part of generative AI innovation. So we do have companies, just a single one, AI21 for the foundational model, but then, as I mentioned, we do have additional edge in addition. So either proprietary data, proprietary productization techniques, being able to have those data sharing concepts, innovation. We do see more and more innovation in this space in Israel, and especially also in sectors which are more natural, like computer vision, defense, healthcare. So we do see it, but I would say 2 years later than expected.
Can Israel close the gap?
I believe so. We do have this attention to that now. I think.
Would you say Israel's prioritizing it like the United States and China has been?
It's also not government-led initiatives to me. It's more business-led initiatives, but we do see more maturity in the local ecosystem to develop new business models and productizing AI. So we might miss this AI technology, like foundational technology, but now we're innovating in AI business use cases, in industry use cases.
Interesting. So can the government play a better part, or do you think they might get in the way, in a sense, because other governments like the United States may be setting policy that the private sector will be following in Israel? So is there an added advantage of the Israeli government getting involved?
I always believe in collaboration between governments, just because we are a part of this big community. So for starters, we should adhere to the highest standards on one side. On the other side, we also should introduce our standpoint and our standards due to the fact that we do have this new innovation, especially in highly regulated and highly compliant industries like healthcare and defense. So we can be a role model. We can have a standpoint on that.
Yeah, we have probably unique positioning. Yeah. So if you were Prime Minister Inna, you have my vote, what would you do for Israel when it comes to ensuring that we can be one of the leaders in AI?
Naturally, we're right now in a sensitive situation where we need to put our funds in specific spend, right? War-related spend. Given that we're in this bright future where peace is all around in the Middle East, I believe that our taxpayer money should totally go to the fund where we advance technologies such as quantum computing, such as AI, such as infrastructure, a grid in Israel, because it could be the new generation of solutions like we used to have in semiconductors, for example. So we used to be leader on the world scale. And right now, I think for almost 2 decades, we are not leader in anything except of cyber.
Right. So you just earned like 2,000 votes from people watching at home.
Just from Tel Aviv.
So if you need a spokesperson for your AI, for your pro-tech party, I'm happy to play a part. So do you think quantum, I did remember reading a few years ago, Israel was building a supercomputer, a quantum computer, among the few nations in the world that was really building one. So it seems like the government is behind it. The Israel Innovation Authority is very active in trying to encourage, obviously, private sector, especially when it comes to, I think, more deep tech that takes far more funding and earlier on. A lot of VCs are scared to write that first check because that ROI won't come in for a long time, if it comes. But to compete with AI, do you think more, is it a policy issue? Is it a budget issue from a government standpoint? Is it a hardware issue? Where do you think, what is our biggest obstacle?
I think it's a focus issue.
Focus.
Yeah.
But can a government focus on a lot of things? Why not? I understand there's a lot of focus, and especially from the Prime Minister's office about the war, but can't they say, this is really important, we're putting the resources in, you're the right person to lead this, please lead this. Why can't a government do everything?
I do believe it's possible to have this focus, the same way that we had the focus on agriculture for so many years and we advanced it on the global scale. We can have focus on AI and generative AI of the future. So I do not see why not. It's not happening, but it could happen every day. We just need a leader.
We just need a leader. Well, that goes back to you. So going back to America leading, how do you think, given that America intends to be the leader in AI, can Israel play a unique role given that everything that we've learned, let's say, in the war so far, we've all kinds of unique data in the sense that other people don't, being a leader in cybersecurity, what can we bring to the table, not just to contribute, but actually make other nations and countries and even enterprises dependent on us?
Israel always excelled in defense technologies, and I'm sure that we'll have this new wave of AI-powered defense companies, springing out of this.
I was doing research on the fires in LA. Drone company Anduril, the defense tech company. And so they were using AI for them to be able to see where the drone should immediately go and drop a fire retardant. So fascinating. Yeah. Just using AI imaging and feeding all kinds of images of other fires spreading, especially in the area, and with the wind and the other things, so they can be as efficient to stop and slow down the fires, given their limited resources. I found this so fascinating. Just one example that it's using at. Do you advise enterprises if they have a unique product, like Anduril as an example? Or is it more kind of what you do for one company, you more or less copy paste but then alter it for another? Or is it always building things from the ground up?
So we already have domain knowledge about all major industries and line of business. So when we onboard a new customer, of course they have their own unique plethora of their own data and settings. And our core IP is not only providing this business logic to start with, but also incorporating their own business knowledge reflected in their data automatically in agentic. So it's goes back to the defense. So kind of picking up clues from the activity, the traces of activity in organizational data and leveraging for automation of creating the context of reasoning automatically.
So if you're a startup, you talk about enterprises. So you could probably think if you were to build a tech startup from the beginning, you must have AI as a core component, if component even the main thing. So if you wanted to start a med tech company or cybersecurity company or any kind of technology company, would you say going forward, your first and foremost have to be an AI company, then med tech on top of it, or then cyber on top of it, or then fintech on top of it? Or no? Or first you build your main thing and then you incorporate AI?
So I believe AI is augmentation technique, not as a core technology, because you have your day job, you have your expertise. So leave the foundational stuff to people who do foundational stuff. Right. So it's all about augmentation. But in nature in 2025, if you start a company, it should have AI component. So it was evident already 2 years ago. Investors came to every startup and they're like, how do you leverage AI for your operations? How you leverage AI for your development? How you're going to cut marketing costs using AI, and how you incorporate AI in your core product. So it was already, everywhere. Like, I'm the CEO, chat groups and like, yeah, what should we do, which tools we should use. And we were a generative AI company from day one. It's like, takes generative AI to become generative AI ready, and it was always our thing. So for me, when an employee comes and say like, we have this new AI tool, I need like your approval to buy it, because we do have policies around that. We do check the data privacy policy, the security policy of those companies, and the approval is usually like within a day or so. I'm a big believer in those tools. I believe everyone's burn shortened significantly by using AI tools for high degree of automation. It will just go up.
Is that bad for VCs? Or, I mean, good, I guess their money goes further, but in the sense it commoditizes cash in a way, right? Which when people talk about AI is like, some people are saying things are going to be so great, you may barely have to work or provide value, right? Because the money becomes less and less important when the AI can pick up that weight for close to free.
It was a trend on LinkedIn a few months ago when everyone's speaking about like one-man show with AI agents.
Yeah.
So like, I do not believe in that. Okay, it's not how it's going to look at in a few years. But Gartner says 25% of revenues of Fortune 500 companies within 3 years are going to come from a AI and data-related product or service.
Whoa! Wait, what?
Yeah. So
how is that even possible? 3 years, AI data related. Well, I guess any technology service needs AI in it, which is kind of what I was saying, right? It's inevitable to escape it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time that it will just be 75%, right? Kind of cap out of anything that's not human to human.
Yeah. So think about logistic company.
Oh, totally. Yeah, logistics, delivery, everything, AI.
Everything
right?
could be more efficient,
right?
With some degree of automation. So I would say it's not about automating the cashier or cab driver. Like, this is comparable small money to automate, right? It's about.
But that's happening too.
Yeah, but it's about automating highly impactful jobs. This is where the real money is.
So would you say, if you're, let's say, starting a tech company that's not AI focused, right? Let's just say med tech, or let's say cybersecurity, we're in Israel. You go ahead and you create, like, you would need a founder that understands AI, like from the beginning, because your CTO would need those skills, or right? If not, then you're spending way too long and way too much money trying to build something that might already be outdated compared to the competition, which may already be using it.
I would say CEO should understand AI principles.
Should?
Yes.
Which principles? Because
so basically,
understand, you don't mean to be technical, but just the concept, business, understand where it's going in the ecosystem.
The concept of being able to, to envision, speaking about visionaries, to envision the future where that company plays significant role in changing markets.
Got it.
So it's understanding from this perspective, and I think many more CEOs actually have that. Self-educating, using those tools in their private lives even. So it's a lot of inspiration around.
Amazing. So where should we, speak of the future and inspiration, where should we expect Illumex to be, let's say, in 5 years from now?
Well, we are building application-free future, both for enterprises and smaller companies. As application-free future, we as humans should be more occupied by moderating and by being inventive, being creative, than just having this tedious task of repetitive, analysis, what have you. So this is where we're very passionate about.
And you see your work for enterprises changing, or more or less just the same, but the technology and recommendations are different?
Yes, illumex is the orchestrator between organizational data, humans, applications, workflows, and governance. So we might be in behind the scenes in majority of the use cases. We're already building community of partners around our solution as well. So I imagine this huge community of like-minded people.
Amazing, lovely. Inna, thank you so much for being on Israel Tech. I know if I have any questions for AI, we know who to contact. And if you're an enterprise watching this, you definitely want to speak to Inna, and you have our vote. Inna,
thank you so much.